Hey, welcome everyone to our video guide. My name is Ned, and in today's video, we're going to be looking at all the different capabilities of using Caspio's document generation feature. And the whole idea here is to be able to import or upload your own fillable PDF files and map out the fields back to either your Caspio table or view, so then on the front end, when your application user is looking at all of the reports, they're able to have that PDF file open up as a new tab, or be able to download that fillable PDF file back to the computer. And in this use case, you're looking at a very simple HR management application where an employee can log in and be able to pull up all the W-2 forms for the employees. Now, I do apologize for the lack of sample data, but you get the idea. If I wanted to download or look at John's W-2 form for 2021, I'm going to have that open up in a new tab. Let's scroll down until we see the form, and now you can see how we've taken all the information from the database and populated that information inside this fillable PDF document. And believe it or not, I'm actually taking information from 3 different database tables and populating that information inside my PDF file using a view as the data source. From here, I can download my file and share that with the employees so they can file their taxes. Let me show you how I've set up my structure in the database behind the scenes. So I'm going to open up my applications. I'll open up my container, go directly to tables. And for the first example, we're going to be looking at these 3 tables with the prefix of W-2. I have the employer table, which has many employees, and we have one employee that has many wages. So it's a 2-tier, one-to-many relationship, and I've joined all 3 of my tables inside the view. I'm going to click Edit to show you. Here are all 3 of my tables. I've linked my tables using the primary keys and the foreign keys, and then on a subsequent screen, you're going to be able to see all the fields across the board, including the employee table fields, the employer table fields, and also the wages. Now let me show you how we map out these fields back to our document template. So back on the home screen, I've already imported my W-2 form inside my Caspio account. If you don't see a fillable PDF file here and you want to import your own, just click on the button up here and go through a couple of steps until you're done importing that fillable PDF file. Once you do so, you're going to be able to see it listed here. And all you need to do is just click on Edit. Find the form that you wish to map out. In my example, it's this one here. And what you want to do next is simply just select your data source. So here you can choose if you want to map out these fields back to your table or back to your view. Now I'm just going to zoom in on my form a little bit so it's a little bit easier on the eyes. In this dropdown, I'm going to select Scale to Width. You can see how it makes it a little bit bigger, and now I can select my fields on the left-hand side and map out my fields on the right-hand side. So if I select one of my fields, you're going to be able to see some mapping options here. For mapping type, I've chosen Data Source Field. If you have one field that only needs one value, I recommend just using the data source field. And in just a moment, I'm going to show you what custom values can do for you. Then next, select your data source field. Obviously, I want to choose my social security number field because I want to map that value back to my field in the template. The easier way to map out your fields is to simply click on the next button to move on to the next field. But if you have a preference, you can also click on the left-hand side, just select your field, and then on the right-hand side, you can map that out. And for the second field, what you're looking at here is I've chosen custom value. Very helpful if you have a long text field in your document template, which is very common if you have like an address field. We can actually take multiple pieces of information from the table or view and feed that information inside a single field on the document template using custom value. All I've done here is I've clicked on the Insert Parameter, Data Source field, located the field that I wish to add to my long text field, select that field, and then just simply click on Insert, and then you're going to be able to see that field added as a parameter inside this text area. If you know what you're doing, you can type inside your own fields manually here if you'd like, or you can just simply click on Insert Parameter, find a field, and add it inside that text area. In addition, underneath that, you have the flexibility to format all of your fields in the document template if you'd like. So for example, I can click on the edit link. For typography, I can change the font type to something else. I can change the size. Let's say we change this to 12 pixels. Let's say we make it italic. We'll change the font color to red. And I want everything to be in uppercase, and let's have it be centered. And in just a moment, you'll see how those changes take effect on our W2 form. But for now, underneath the formatting, we have default value. So you can assign a default value once you output that fillable PDF file if you'd like. And then you also have the option to make the text area or any field in a document template be never allowed, meaning that once you download the fillable PDF file on the web, you don't have the ability to modify that text. You can select always allowed, so even when you download the PDF file, now your application user can manipulate that information if they'd like. And then we also have the option allowed if the field is empty. So once you download the PDF file, if there's no information inside that field, your application user can now type something in there if they'd like. I'm just going to revert back to never allowed. And I'm going to show you this capability using this long text, which I have selected always allowed. So with these changes, let's go ahead and hit save so that you can see what that looks like on the front end now. Let's go back and close this one and reopen our W2 form. Let's scroll down. And now you can see how my text is italic, it's centered, it's all in uppercase, and the font text is red. Also, because I made this long text to be editable, now I can click inside this field and my end user or my application user can now modify and manipulate that data to something else. Once I make my changes, I can now download that file once again, share that file with the employee so once again they can file their taxes. Now, it's also very important to show you some capability on the front end when you're designing your data pages, how you can include some icons, tooltips, column headings, so you can have even more flexibility when it comes to the front end design. So let me go to my data page, back to my Caspio applications, open up that container, go to data pages, and we're going to be looking at this report for W2 forms. I'm going to click edit. I'm going to hit next a few times until we reach the results page. And on the results page, you can see how I'm including two different generate PDF options. By clicking on the insert button, you can add additional ones if you'd like. For the very first one, I have the link. I call the link Open W2 Form to indicate to the application user that you can open this up in a new tab. And I have the action set to open in browser, which means I want the PDF to open up in a new tab on the browser level. You can add a label if you'd like. For document template, you can have a file name if you wish to do so. And you can also change the icon to something else. These are the preloaded icons that Caspio provides. Or you can have your own custom icon if you have a reference URL to that image. Just paste that URL here to supersede Caspio's icons that are pre-populated. I'll just revert back to what I had before. And then again, you could insert as many as you'd like for different templates in the same report. You have that capability. You can also include the same thing on the details page if you'd like. If you want to have multiple options, just simply click on the insert button and add your generate PDF, and then you can move that up and down depending on your preference. So lots and lots of flexibility in terms of the look and feel, even on the front end, the way your application user is going to download these fillable PDF files. Let's move on to the next example, which is the W9 requests. Let me open up my W9 form so that you can see what that looks like. And what we're going to be looking at this example is the ability to add a watermark text and change the opacity. We're also going to be looking at how to map out the characters from one field in your Caspio view or table and map out the characters from that field across multiple fields on the document template. In addition to that, we're going to be looking at some checkbox options as well. And lastly, in this example, we have actually two different tables, but I'm not using the view. I'm actually using the option called display value from the parent table to swap out the user ID with the name. So I wanted to show you that even if you have two tables and you want to pull information from the parent table, you can do so with the option checkbox that we have when configuring the document template. So let's go inside Caspio and let's go to our document templates. Let's open up the W9 form. And once again, I'm going to zoom in so you can see my fields a little bit bigger. And for the very first field, you'll notice the option here, use display value. But my mapping out field, I'm using the user ID from the request table, which would make one think that, why is the user ID not displayed? Why is the name displayed Sam Baker? Well, because I'm using the display value. This allows me to look inside a parent table, grab the name of that employee, and populate the name as opposed to the user ID. The next thing that we're going to look at are the checkboxes. So I'm going to map out my first checkbox just to show you that I'm using the data source field, and indicated by the icon here on the left-hand side, if you decide to do so, you can have that preference. So if in your table you have a yes and no data type for a checkbox, you can simply just map out your checkbox to that specific checkbox. For the C corporation, I'm doing the same exact thing. So if you select that field, you can see same thing. And then for S corporation, I also wanted to show you that if you have a single field in your table and you're using a list string data type that has all of these options already, you can map out all of those values from the table across all of these checkboxes. So for example, if I select now data source field and I choose S corporation, you can see the icon is list string. I can now select S corporation, uncheck this, and you can do the same thing. Now I can go back to my other checkboxes and use that same exact field, list string, and select sole proprietor and map that out to that checkbox. And then C corporation. So if I select that, let's say we select list string. Again, I'm using the same field. And all I'm doing here is selecting my option from that list string that has all these values. So if you wanted to have just a single field in your table, using the list string, you can map out your checkboxes that way as well. Again, this is whatever preference you have, but you have the option to do that if you'd like. And then finally down here, we're going to be looking at the social security number. Sometimes your PDF template will have, which normally could be one field in the Caspio table or view, but your PDF template will have that set up as 3 different fields. So what you can do is use that same field from the table or view, click on the first option, data source field. I'm using my social security field, and all I'm doing is just mapping out the characters 1 to 3 for the first option. The second one, again, I'm using the same exact field, and I'm mapping characters 4 to 5. And finally, we have mapping characters 6 to 9. So one field in your table or view, but we're able to pull information from that field, from that value, and map out just the characters across many fields on your document template. Extremely, extremely helpful if you have a need to do so across many fields, even your employer identification number, which I did, 1 to 2 characters, and then you can see 3 to 8 characters mapped out. You're familiar with the formatting, you're familiar with default value and the ability to edit or not edit once the PDF file is downloaded. What I wanted to show you next is the settings tab, and here you have the ability for watermark, which I've already configured. So I have it text. I've given my fictitious company name. I've chosen my font style. You can change that to something else. My font size. You can also change the style to make it bold, italic, underlined. It's up to you. You can make it uppercase, sentence case, or all lowercase. And then I've chosen my color. Now to change the opacity, you go to color picker, you change the color, and then you can change the opacity to something else if you'd like. So if I change this to, let's say, black with 30% opacity, it's going to look light gray. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a second. You can change the positioning of your watermark. Let me move my chat icon to the top so that you can see. So I can now change that to maybe left aligned. I can have it be across all of my pages, or I can specify only for certain custom pages that need to include a watermark. We can expand the document properties here as well. So you can change the title, the author, subject, and keywords on that document template. So once I save my changes, let's go ahead and download that W9 form one more time so you can see the difference in the watermark. So I'm going to close that, open it up again. And now you can see how I'm left aligning it. It's light gray because I changed the opacity, and some of the text behind the overlay can still be seen because the opacity is set to 30%. Okay, so let's move on to our third example. I'm using a DMV bill of sale. So when you're selling your car, you can populate the information for that vehicle. So if I click on open, The only thing that we're going to be looking at is the date field, because I wanted to show you how you can change the localization so that when you produce your fillable PDF output, I only want to be able to see the date and not the time, because in your Caspio table, the data type is date and time, and I only want to be able to see the date and not include the time if you have a date field on that PDF template. So back inside my Caspio account, let's go to Document Templates. Let's look at the DMV bill of sale. Click Edit. Here's my date field. My data source field is the date sign. We can see the icon. It's using the date and time. And then we click on Formatting. Data format, you're going to be able to see the options for the date field. You can have long text, which will include the time. I've selected the short date to take out the time. And when I produce my PDF, only shows me the date and not the time. And now let's go ahead and move on to our very last example. I found a very simple PDF file because I wanted to show you dropdowns. Sometimes your document template would come with some values that are part of the dropdown. So when you produce the PDF, you're going to be able to see those values, or you can have additional values added to your dropdown or text field once that PDF file is downloaded. So let's go to Document Templates. Here's my sample PDF form. I'm going to click Edit. And what I wanted to show you is if you do have a dropdown, so in this case, my country field is a dropdown on the template, and you can see we have these values. But you're going to be able to see here above that it says other values are allowed. So let's say you have a submission form and you have a country that's not part of this list. Let's say Norway, which you don't see inside all of these values. And you submit Norway to your table, and then you produce the PDF, you download the PDF file, you're going to be able to see Norway because other values are allowed. But I also have a gender dropdown here, which has male, man and woman, or male or female. But the option for this one says other values are not allowed. So let's say in your table you submitted something other. So you have male, female, and other, and you download the PDF file. You're not going to be able to see other populate on that PDF file because other values are not allowed. So it's very specific. So now let me show you an example on the front end so that you can see. So here I have a sample name, why failing. It's just a fictitious name that I came up with. You can see gender says other, and we have Austria. So if I download this in browser, you're going to be able to see how the gender field doesn't actually populate the value called other. So if I scroll down, you're going to be able to see how gender doesn't show up. And then for my country field, because I'm using Norway, remember that option is other values are allowed. So if I open this up in a browser, you're going to be able to see how Norway is populated inside my output. But once again, gender is not populated because that is not allowed. In addition, because I'm using a different value than what's inside my PDF output, male is not going to be printed once I generate my PDF file because male doesn't exist as the value inside my PDF document template. However, if I go to my database table, let's just say we change male to man, which is one of the values in the PDF template. So let's open up the table for sample PDF. Let's just say we change male to man. And now when I go back to my report and I reload, now we have man. And because that exists as one of the values in my document template, I should be able to print that now on my PDF output. And there you can see it printed. But no other values will be allowed. So the final thing that I wanted to address in today's video guide, let's go back to our list of document templates. And I just wanted to briefly mention a couple of options here on the list. So you have some metrics here that you can track. For example, generated files. Every time somebody either opens up the PDF in a new tab or downloads that PDF, this increment will increase by 1. Kind of gives you an idea how many people are downloading that PDF file. Using the search box, you can search all the columns inside this list. You can also expand the columns here on the right-hand side, including the filters. So if you wanted to group all of your fillable PDF files, let's say, for example, by data source, you can drag and drop this inside row groups, and it automatically now groups all of your data based on the data source. If you no longer want that, you can just X, and now it reverts back to the original, and then you can just collapse this expandable section and go back to what it was before. Also, if you hover over and click on more, you can rename that PDF file to something else. You can make a copy of it. You can download it back to your computer, or you can delete it and start over. So that's all the information that I wanted to cover in terms of capabilities for all of your document templates. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.